right, thanks for joining us again for InSecurITy.TV. I'm your host, Charles Henson in Nashville, Tennessee, and with us today we have David Ruddock of Insane Technologies in Australia and Scott Beck with Beck Tech up in Canada. And Scott has our tip of the day for us. Scott, what are you going to talk about?
So before you give away your mobile device, there's some things that you need to do with it before you give it away. And we're going to give you some advice on what that is before we wrap up the show.
All right, great. Today's topic is dangers of BYOD. BYOD is bring your own device. So a lot of employers are letting employees bring in their own laptops, their own Surface devices, their own phones, their own tablets, their own laptops, and using their computers from home to access the corporate network. We're going to talk a little bit about the dangers of that. If that device is not protected, what dangers are we bringing into the corporate network? Scott, David, I know you guys and I as well work with our clients a lot. We lock down our security on our clients' networks. We put in firewalls, we put in antivirus, and we do all this protection. But what are some of the dangers that you've seen by letting employees just have any device connecting into that secure network? David?
Yeah, I mean, one of the biggest concerns is who else is using the device. So, I've seen it where lady in the office has been supplied a laptop so that she can work from home. She goes home, her son jumps on, he's downloading a whole heap of movies, music and video games and cracks and all other things. And then inadvertently getting a virus into that computer. The computer then goes back to the office to work and the virus then spreads. So the biggest thing we're sort of saying to our clients, and if you're someone out there in this position, go chat to your IT guy about this. But if you have a work supplied laptop, don't let anyone else in the family use it. When you take it home, only use it for work purposes. Don't go start surfing random things on it. If you don't already have a personal computer for that sort of stuff, you need to get one and clearly keep the work and personal surfing and family and all the rest of it away from that work device. You're basically contaminating what is otherwise a secure environment, or hopefully a secure environment.
So Charles, the interesting thing that as I've watched the industry evolve, at one time all new technology came from big companies and filtered down to the little guys. Well, thanks to Mr. Steve Jobs and the iPod, that shifted everything. So now suddenly we had consumer level devices moving into corporate worlds. And IT folks and companies have struggled on how to be dealing with that. So in today's world, yes, we've got the work-assigned laptops like David was mentioning, but most people now have smartphones. So you'll have your own personal smartphone that you're doing your own thing on it. You're doing your Boom Beach, or your Smurf games, your Candy Crunch, whatever games you're going for, Angry Birds. But then you've gone and put your work email on it. So now you've got corporate data that's sitting on it, and it becomes kind of a challenge for corporate IT to kind of deal with that, and for companies to have to deal with that. And really, some of the onus has got to be on the user and what they're using it for and what they have it for. Because remember, if a breach gets traced back, the biggest fear that I have, Charles, is people taking their laptops, work laptops, personal laptops where they got company data, their smartphones, and let's say they're going to a Starbucks for coffee, and they get on there and they're just working away and don't realize that anybody else in that Starbucks could technically be trying to take a look at that laptop. They're not using proper corporate technology like a VPN, virtual private network, to connect back to the office to do their work. So they're leaving things more exposed. So it's becoming more of a challenge as the lines merge between home and business.
Well, yeah. Well, I'd like to also add, though, that even if they are using that corporate VPN, if you let your kids download torrent movies and other types of information that should not be downloaded from the internet, and that machine gets infected, and now you take it to that Starbucks and you connect to your corporate VPN, then now you've just created a pathway for that virus or malicious software to get into your corporate network. So I think the dangers lie even deeper. And then on the tablets, devices, the smartphones and things of that nature, we talked about this in prior shows about the cost of free. And anytime you're running an iPad for your business and you let your kids download Angry Birds and anything else, and it's already tracing the information, and now you're using it for corporate data, then there's a lot of dangers that lurk there. And we really need to start protecting those devices. And corporations and businesses need to think, what do I need to do to protect myself if I'm allowing end users to bring their own devices into the workplace?
Well, Charles, we actually had a case that we dealt with just recently where it was the HR lady who also had to run payroll. So she was using ADP, the online version, to make payments. And she had a corporate assigned laptop. So when she wasn't at the office, she had a computer at home. Unfortunately, unbeknownst to her, her teenage son was using the laptop because it was faster than the home computer. So he ended up getting a keylogger virus. This is a program that actually captures all your strokes. So now you've got somebody that's doing payroll, entering very delicate information into a system that this keylogger was then tracking. Now, we caught it and we got it removed and taken care of. But that caused a lot of problem, and that HR person almost lost their job over this because it shouldn't have been used for personal stuff. So I would say you've got to keep those two things separate. So if you're given corporate asset, keep it corporate. David mentioned that earlier. I mean, you gotta have that dual personality, that split personality, and keep it off, because as you said, you could be the gateway enabling these hackers or criminal elements into your company, as almost was the case with this payroll that would have impacted over 70 employees.
Yeah, that's pretty intense. There was something that one of our clients came up with as well, and the issue I find is that this is a personal device. And one of my clients actually raised it with me and said, I'm a bit concerned all the girls in the office are using their computer to charge their iPhones. Is that a security concern? And I looked into it, and although we haven't actually seen it happen in the wild yet, they actually did prove that they could inject a virus from a phone and use it as a way of gaining access to computers. So, again, staff coming in with their personal phones, using the USB port on the computer to charge. And again, it's a personal device crossing over into the corporate security network. No one's thinking about it because it's just a day-to-day thing, but there is the potential that could create a security breach.
It's very interesting you say that, David, because I was reading an article recently, and it was talking about phone jacking. And it was talking about people have actually been able to go to the airport terminals, and where you can plug in and do a quick charge on your phone, they've been able to actually manipulate the software that's running behind that device, and they can insert code on phones. They've proven that they can do this. Now, the code can be installed on your phone. Now your phone is compromised. So now you take that compromised phone and exactly what you said, plug it up to your corporate network, and now it's bleeding into your corporate network. Something that happened at an airport while this person was traveling, maybe for vacation or maybe it was business. But either way, now they've put a risk on the business of plugging that device into the local computer.
So if you're in the corporate world, or you're a business owner or an IT director, really you need to come up with some policies. How are you going to deal with this? It's no longer an option of if it happens, it's happening on a daily basis. So how are you going to deal with it? Get some policies in place and educate. If you're a consumer, keep in mind it's not just your livelihood. I mean, if something gets traced back to you, as almost happened to this HR girl, I mean, it could be your job and your livelihood. So treat it accordingly and conduct yourself accordingly to make sure you're kind of protecting against those kind of things.
Yeah, absolutely. And there is software out there. It's actually in our industry, it's called mobile device management. And it is just what it sounds like it is. It allows you to manage that mobile device, and it can work on laptops, Surfaces, it can work on iPads, it can work on phones, smartphones. And the way that it works is when you install it, you can set up, you have to check with the provider, but typically when you install it, it will have a corporate profile or identity for the phone and a personal identity for the phone. So with that, what you can do is you can actually separate the corporate information from the personal information. So that in the event that an employee gets terminated, you can actually go in and wipe your corporate information off of that device without wiping the device in its entirety. Now, let's say the end user is using their own personal phone and you have mobile device management software on it. Maybe they left it on a plane. Maybe they left it somewhere. Maybe it got stolen. And then at that point, you could either selectively wipe the phone or get a written permission from the employee to actually wipe the phone. That way, in the event that it's found, they don't come back to you later and say, well, you wiped my phone even though I didn't authorize you to do that. So really, you need to set up policies and procedures and install a software. And you can get with pretty much any phone provider to get that mobile device management software, or a managed service provider, an IT company in your area. They should be able to provide that as well.
Yeah.
Well, that leads us to our security tip of what happens if we have a smartphone and we no longer need it. Maybe we're upgrading. We're getting the new, the latest and greatest phone that's the size of a tablet.
So you spent 3 days waiting in line at the technology store, waiting for the new one to come. What do you do with the old phone?
That's exactly right.
So we're starting to see a lot more bins where you can pass that on for charity and pass it on, but you got to remember that there's data on there. So like with the iPhone, for example, we're not going to be picking which side of the flavor you should be having, but with iPhone, your storage gets encrypted. So that when you wipe it, it erases all the keys to that encryption, scrambling all the data. So you're a little better protected. Android, not the same thing. It doesn't have that kind of feature. Actually, Avast, which is a security company, they ended up buying 200 phones off of eBay, and they were able to recover critical data, including the identity of the previous owners on several of the phones. So if you've got an Android device, you got to make sure to turn on your storage encryption, then factory reset your phone to ensure that no one can recover the data. One of my old instructors used to say the only way that you can ever make sure the data is totally secure is to destroy the device. Well, you don't necessarily want to go that extreme. There are some great charities and reasons why you want to pass that phone down. Make sure it's encrypted, then do a factory wipe. The key is to try to make it so that people can't easily get into it. And that would be our tip of the week.
There are software as well on the Android Play Store and a few other things for helping you wipe the phone. But I mean, this goes the same with any device. Make sure if you're giving away the laptop or the work computer, even the work photocopier, which most people don't know has a hard drive in it as well, make sure it's securely wiped, because if someone really wanted to, they could, get the data off there. Just deleting a file, it doesn't do what most people think it does. It just deletes a small index to where that data was stored, and you can download software free off the internet to recover data. It's not hard.
Well, it might scare people, but we've been able to go back 14 formats, which is the term, and still be able to get stuff. We've done it. It's possible. There's ways to protect it. So having that encryption and then setting the factory reset so it then scrambles a key certainly goes a long way to help prevent that. But good point, David. If it's got a hard drive and it stores data, you gotta securely get that thing wiped to try to make it as hard as possible for the next person that comes into contact with it to get anything off of it.
Absolutely. And also, if the smartphone or the device that you're turning in actually has a memory slot, if you remove the back cover, take the battery off, if it has a memory slot in there, then you can actually take that memory chip out. It's where a lot of your pictures are stored, and you may want to save some of that information anyway.
And I should have mentioned SIM cards is very important to take out. All these smartphones, whether it's Android, iPhone, Microsoft phone, are going to have a SIM card to go back to your carrier. There is some data on there that you wouldn't want to be passing along, so take the SIM card out too.
Absolutely. All right, David, Scott, appreciate it. And we'll talk to you next time. Join us again for InSecurITy.TV.